Hello, my name is Isla. I'm the founder and CEO of the Millennial Nutritionist. I'm a registered dietitian and I help millennials lose weight, or really anybody of any age lose weight or have an overall healthier diet or healthier lifestyle. And so this video kind of came to me because I feel like it's a conversation I've been having with clients recently. So maybe we need to do an overall refresh on why you're not losing weight. These are really just like purely my observations from when I have clients that maybe struggle to lose weight before they meet with me, or when they are working with me still struggle to lose weight. It really comes down to these two things, which I hope you don't hate me for saying this, but it is either you're not eating too much or you're exercising too little. Like there definitely are intricacies of like maybe you have hypothyroidism, maybe you are have PCOS, but for hypothyroidism, as long as you're on medication, it really just means that if you're still not losing weight, it could mean that you need to get on a different medication. But for most of the clients I see, it just means that they are either not moving enough or they're eating too much. And with PCOS, kind of the same. It might just mean that you have a slower weight loss for both. But for clients that I have with PCOS, it really comes down to these same things again. So let me dive into them and what you can kind of do about them. So for both moving more and eating less, I have a whole nother video that I made last year that's a comprehensive overlook on how we lose weight. So you can check that out if you need a deeper dive into what I'm talking about here. But for both, you really have to be consistent. What I see a lot of people get frustrated by is they feel like they are giving a lot of effort towards making a lot of changes when it comes to eating fruits and vegetables, and maybe not eating dessert as much and not drink as much alcohol, which is great. You probably will still lose weight over time. But in order to see weight loss a little bit more consistently and a little bit quicker, you really in some way kind of need to be tracking your progress with some metrics and making sure that you are so consistent with it. It doesn't have to be like this big effort, it doesn't need to be like hit F45 like every day. Like I don't know how people could be consistent with that, but it does just mean like gentle calorie deficit, gentle walking or swimming or doing some sort of activity you love. And what I see a lot of the times, like I said, is people feel like they're changing a lot, which they probably are, but it still quite isn't enough, which I know sucks, but it is just reality. We live in a world and a society, especially if you live in America, where making the healthier choice, whether it's to walk to the grocery store or wish we could take public transit, like that's so hard to do here, or even going to and just like not ordering large size things, or going to a movie and not being like immediately inundated with the smells. Like it's just really hard to honestly get through the day and do what you should be doing, because I feel like it's like almost always the harder choice unless you finagle your lifestyle, which I help clients with to make it the easier choice. But just know it is going to feel hard because it's going against the grain of what society kind of wants for us. Businesses need to sell, and for food companies to sell means to sell you foods that are kind of addictive and that aren't honestly the best. Eating a regular baked potato or like oranges or fish isn't really going to sell as much as eating like Doritos and candy and stuff like that. So know that there is a reason that it's hard. But in order to see the weight loss, you kind of have to like power through it. I help clients, of course, like make it easier and comes up with lots of tricks. Making sure you're not hungry going into meals can really help. Making sure you're not hungry going into that movie theater, making sure you know your why, all stuff like that can help. But yeah, overall, it probably is going to feel hard because it is hard. What a lot of people think too is like their perception of what they need to be doing is a lot lower than actually what needs to happen. I feel bad because sometimes I feel like I say things like, oh, it isn't that difficult. And I guess I feel like it isn't that difficult when it comes to like, we don't need to be like cutting out lots of food groups. We don't need to be like intermittent fasting or like doing keto to lose weight. I think those things are hard. But what we need to do is like 50% of that effort, but you need to do it very consistently over a long period of time, which means eating more produce. It means when you go to Starbucks, add on the applesauce and maybe do the lower size of the drink as opposed to the bigger size. So it's like these small things that you have to continue to do, but it can't just be a couple days a week. I get a lot of people that come to me and they say that they feel like they're doing a lot, and they are doing a lot, but it may be only like 2 to 3 days a week, which feels like a lot for them, but it isn't enough to see weight loss on a grand scale. And again, I think you need to be very honest with yourself. And it may be best to track your progress as far as like the goals. We can track our progress as far as weight, But I think it's a lot better to actually track the goals. So I help clients, of course, like set up goals, but you could try to do this on your own and try to set like very specific goals for you that week, whether like your goal is to walk 5,000 steps every day. Like really make sure you do it and be realistic with yourself. If you don't do it, know that you're probably not going to see progress. I help clients set goals that are what you need to do to lose weight. So of course I can't tell you everything over a video of like what your goals should look like. But overall, I think like just be really honest with yourself, because even what my clients say that they thought they were doing before isn't actually what they were doing. So like before I even intervene and say like, actually your goals are not up to par, like they could be saying, you know, I am eating the protein, like I'm eating 100 grams of protein, which may be like the exact amount they need to be eating, but they're really only doing it like 2 to 3 days a week. And we would never know if they weren't actually tracking on MyFitnessPal. Or they feel like they're walking a lot and they might be getting 10,000 steps a day, but it really is only like for half of the week. And so understanding like how much you need to do it and being consistent with it as much as you can. I mean, it really needs to be that lifestyle change is a big reason why people have more long-term weight loss versus people that don't actually see progress. But when we dive into the two, calorie deficit versus exercise, what I see the biggest thing of why incorrectly being in a calorie deficit will cause you not to lose weight is honestly like not tracking things correctly. So you can be in a calorie deficit tracking food, but I'm just talking about like if you are tracking and you're like at your wit's end because you're like, look, I'm tracking, I'm in a calorie deficit, I'm freaking like not even that eating that much at all, I'm still not losing weight. It could be that you're not tracking correctly. This is something that I see and correct in a lot of clients, especially with like oils. They are a small amount, but they are a lot of calories. Make sure if you're cooking eggs in the morning, even the spray that says 0 calories, don't put 0 calories because it's oil. Like we can't have oil that's 0 calories. They mean for a tiny little amount. They mean is 0 calories. But if you're like spraying a pan, it is calories. So for sure track any oils like butter, avocado oil, olive oil, anything like that, especially like salad dressing. I think fats are one of the biggest thing to miss when tracking, and you really need to make sure to measure. Like even for myself, my peanut butter that I put on in the morning, I can very much get portion distortion about it and think that like a huge glob, like this much is like a tablespoon. Actually, a tablespoon is like this much. It's like nothing at all. A tablespoon of peanut butter is literally like the size of your index finger. Like it is nothing, and it sucks, but it makes sense of like why I might have gained weight if I'm like doing this much peanut butter and think that it's only a tablespoon. So make sure you're tracking your oils. Make sure again, like, yeah, you are measuring things out. So the biggest time I see this is with those fats. Salad dressing isn't bad for you, but you just want to make sure you're not like you're accounting for what you're putting on there. And then also eating out. So I think with people that eat out a lot, you definitely can lose weight. You might just need to be a little bit more patient with yourself, and it's probably going to be a little slower. And I would say if it's a part of your lifestyle you absolutely can't cut out, like you work in sales and that's like what you do all the time, or I don't know in what other way it would be a part of your job, but if it's just like something you can't avoid, like maybe you travel, I guess, I think like the best thing would be to work with a registered dietitian, because I would say it's very challenging to eat out all the time because we just simply don't know. I know personally, like I have a hard time losing weight when I'm eating out a lot, and the only time that I lose weight is when I like just stop doing that. I don't know too, like I definitely am a volume eater, so whatever amount of food you put in front of me, I'm gonna eat it all. At home, I notice that like I'm not as overfull when I cook like the same stir fry for myself, probably because I portion it down. But yeah, if you're eating out and you're tracking it and you feel like this is so frustrating, I'm tracking it, like I'm still not losing weight, it's likely just because that food is higher in calories, and the only real solution I have is to either be patient with yourself or really try to minimize eating out if possible. The next thing is exercise. So like I said, if you're not losing weight, it means you're eating too much or you're exercising too little. I really hate to say it, but I'm trying to explain why. Why it may seem like you are doing those things, but you're not. So exercise, what I see common problems with that is that overall you're not moving enough. So in order to have weight loss, I recommend people need to do some sort of steady state cardio, like nothing where your heart rate is crazy high. That's why I love walking. It could also be like low impact swimming, or if you want to do like biking, it could be that, as long as you're not like really, really pushing it and your heart rate's not above like 160 all the time, stuff like that. Other stuff like could be, you could incorporate like some sort of like heavy cardio a couple times a week. Like I love my pickleball. But you do also need to be doing strength. And sometimes I see people who are frustrated that feel like should be losing weight because they think that they're exercising enough when they're likely only doing one of these things. Most of the time I see this when people are doing strength training. Like they feel like they're doing like 4 to 5 days a week. And they say like something must be wrong with me. Like I'm not losing weight. When what actually is wrong is like you're just not burning a whole lot during the strength training that you need to be. Like you might be burning a lot. Like your heart rate can really get up there, definitely on like a day where you're doing lower body, because you burn a lot of calories because it's a lot of muscle in your lower body compared to your upper body or abs or something like that. But unfortunately, it's still not enough in order to have weight loss. Strength training is really helpful, but more of like a long-term benefit. I think of it more of like an investment in your health that pays off later on. It's not as much reward right now in the moment. I would say you don't really see the reward too much until like a month after you've been doing it very consistently. We do burn a little bit. I would say maybe like 100 to 200 calories or something like that during strength training for the amount that I recommend. So it is definitely helping, but I think we need to have the bulk of our calories being burned through the steady state cardio. It's less stressful than telling yourself I'm going to go on a 1 hour run every day. We also kind of need like consistent movement throughout the day. So that's why steps I think is really helpful, because to get 10,000 steps in a day, you do kind of have to like consistently move throughout the day. It takes lots of breaks. There is research to suggest that we utilize the glucose in our blood a lot better when we're up more often. Not like we're up doing crazy workouts, but literally just like up moving instead of sitting down for 8 hours straight. So that's why, again, I love the 10,000 steps, because I feel like it forces you to move throughout the day. You can't possibly get 10,000 steps in, like if you're a normal person who works at one bulk time. Even me, I walk like an hour to 70 minutes every morning, and I only still get in 5,000 to 6,000 steps. So I still have to be consistently taking my dogs out, like taking the trash out, doing laundry, stuff like that. It helps me get steps in, and it helps me to be active throughout the day. So again, if you're not losing weight, ask yourself, like, honestly, if you are actually in a calorie deficit, are you actually exercising enough? And this might just go back to one of those things too, where it's like, maybe you don't know what you don't know, right? Like maybe you feel like you really are doing a lot. And that's where I think working with somebody is really helpful, because first of all, I know what you don't know. Like I know across the board, after helping like over 200 people to lose weight, what you probably are doing wrong. And it's hard to know what you don't know we're doing wrong, right? But also I think it's like accountability. I have a lot of clients that like maybe in the back of their head, they kind of knew that they should be doing more, but they thought because they were giving more effort, like they should have lost weight. But when they have somebody that's on the other side of things saying, hey, I really, you really need to be doing this more consistently. This is why you're not losing weight, in a very gentle way, just reminding them like it's not time to get your labs drawn and go to the doctor and wonder if you have things wrong with you, because you really just aren't doing things consistently enough to par what needs to happen. And to keep you accountable for it. I know for me too, like when sometimes I get frustrated that I don't lose weight, and I'm like, okay, well, you really only tracked like 4 days this week, and you didn't track any of the weekend days. Like, of course you didn't lose weight because you're only doing 4 days. Come on, get it together. Or like when I'm like, oh, well, the peanut butter's okay. Like, I really don't need to track that like extra snack. It's like, yes, you do. You need to be doing all of it, because this is why we're not losing weight. So that's why I think it can be really helpful to work with somebody if you're just so frustrated, because we can help to start like pulling apart the layers of what might be going wrong. And I know it can be really frustrating, especially if you feel like you're doing one of these things really well. And you might be. I feel like most of the people I work with are not doing nothing. Like they may actually be doing one of these like 100% of the time. Like they might have their exercise like with the walking and the strength training, but then there's something funky going on with their calorie tracking or something like that. And that can really make all the difference. So if you do want to work with somebody and you feel like you're like, I don't know what I don't know, and this is enlightening, you can definitely work with me. I help clients all the time figure out kind of what is wrong. So make sure to check out my services with, not the link in the bio because we're on YouTube, but I think somewhere in my page I have to schedule a discovery call. You can check out our program and stuff like that. But I hope this helped.